Hi everyone. Hello. Hi, can you guys? Okay, yes, I'm live. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome on board. Welcome to another GRE King live series. So, today, as you guys know, and you guys have already seen from the video, today we are going to talk about time management tips in GRE. So for all the people who are preparing for their GRE, I'm assuming that a lot of my students are also planning their GRE somewhere around mid-September, and some of them are planning around first week of October. So for all those people who are planning their GRE and you are somewhere you are done with your say you are good with reading comprehension, or say you are good with text completion, and you are still working on your quantitative aptitude, or whatever the reason would be, whichever area you are actually working on, it is very important that you actually set up your time management strategy for GRE. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about how much time you should allocate for each question on GRE, so that you don't have that time crunch towards the end. And I'll also be talking about what all things you can do to actually improve your time management skills. Okay, so let's begin with today's video. Before I begin, with anybody who is interested in setting up an appointment with me and wants to know more about going abroad, doing their masters in any of the places US, UK, Canada, wherever you want to get into, and you want some guidance, you can, my Calendly link is given below. You can set up an appointment with me and I'll be able to help you out. Second, and the most important thing which I want to tell you all is, the students who are very serious aspirants have already begun with the course, so still there is time. Still you can actually get onto the course and rev up your GRE preparation. Every Monday and Friday we are having lectures, and you can check out a video that I have done on the dashboard, so you will get an idea that how does my dashboard look like what all things you will get access to. Okay, so with that in mind, let's begin with today's video and talk about more about GRE time management tips and tricks and what you need to do. So I have made my notes, and I've written down with my research that approximately how much time you should take. So this video, I want you all to sit with a pen and paper and note down till the end all the important time management strategies, because I'm going to talk about few numbers that for this particular section you have to devote this much time. So you might get forget it, or you might get confused. So sit with a pen and paper and start writing with me as soon as I begin. Okay, now first and the most important thing is, as you all know that GRE will have, the verbal section will have 20 questions, and you have to attempt the verbal section will have 20 questions, and you have to attempt it in 30 minutes, whereas the quants section will have 20 questions and you have to attempt it in 35 minutes. Okay, so now if you have 20 questions to solve in 30 minutes, so approximately you have 1.5 minutes per question in verbal section. And similarly, if you have 20 questions in 35 minutes, so for the quant section you have approximately 1 minute 45 seconds per question. Okay, but now that's not the case. If you think that every sentence equivalence question, or every text completion, or every reading comprehension question would not take the same amount of time. ठीक है, because जब तुम रीडिंग कॉम्प्रिहेंशन क्वेश्चन सॉल्व कर रहे हो, सो ऑब्वियसली तुम्हारा टाइम थोड़ा ज्यादा लगेगा एज कंपेयर टू अ सेंटेंस इक्विवेलेंस क्वेश्चन और अ टेक्स्ट कंप्लीशन क्वेश्चन. सो इट बिकम्स रियली इंपॉर्टेंट दैट हाउ आर यू गोइंग टू मैनेज योर टाइम. Similarly, quants में, as I told you, कि 1 minute 45 seconds per question लगाना है. So that doesn't mean कि सारे questions के लिए उतना ही time लगेगा. Why? Because some questions will take a little more time. If you're doing some data interpretation, zyada calculation intensive hota hai. So those things will take a little more time. So what you have to do is, you have to actually plan up your time, that and while you are solving questions and when you're studying at home also, please get into the habit of using a stopwatch on your phone, a timer kind of a thing, so that you keep track of time. All the people who are preparing with me, I've always been telling them that one very important thing, one very good thing that you have to keep in mind is that whenever you are solving, first and the most important thing is you have to concentrate on your accuracy. ठीक है, अगर क्वेश्चंस राइट आना स्टार्ट हो गए तो फर्स्ट इंपॉर्टेंट चीज टाइम मैनेजमेंट नहीं है. पहले अगर तुम प्रेपरेशन स्टार्ट कर रहे हो, तो फर्स्ट एंड द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग दैट यू नीड टू फोकस ऑन इज योर एक्यूरेसी. Once you start getting questions correct, then next thing should be time management. And as soon as you're approaching near to your actual GRE date, then you should definitely focus on your time management strategy. Okay, so that is what I wanted to tell you all. Now moving ahead with this, Abhi, for example, you have, let's start with, like, verbal section first. Okay, so verbal section, that, a short, there'll be a short passage and there'll be a long passage. Okay, so short passage, ideally you should keep in mind ki if GRE makes short passage reading comprehension mein aa raha hai, so you have to devote 3 minutes to it. Okay, so a short passage would ideally have 1, 2 to 3 questions. 3 se zyada questions short passage mein nahi rahega. So if you have a short passage in the GRE exam, then you have to devote 3 minutes. Okay, next important thing is if you have a long passage in GRE exam, so ideally for solving all the questions of a long passage, you should be devoting around 4.5 minutes. Okay, so that should be the strategy that you have to attempt. Now you also should understand that first reading comprehension jab aa raha hai, jo first question hai reading comprehension ka, usko solve karne mein comparatively thoda zyada time लगेगा. ओके, क्यों ज्यादा टाइम लगेगा? बिकॉज अभी तुम दैट्स द फर्स्ट पैसेज, यू आर एक्चुअली रीडिंग द एंटायर पैसेज एंड देन यू आर मूविंग टू द क्वेश्चन. So the first question will always take, like, a little more time, because that's the first question of the passage. You might have to go back and forth. Okay, but next question should be smooth enough. So the time that you're actually investing in reading the passage, please ensure that that's full concentration, bang on. And you also need to develop read things which actually, like, which are similar to GRE material. So I've always been telling you that get into the habit of reading newspapers like New York Times, Atlantic, Economist, because these newspapers, the words that you see in these newspapers, or the way, like, the structure of the language that is used in these newspapers is very similar to a GRE passage, okay, or GRE material. So that is something that you have to keep in mind, that you should get into the habit of reading these things, so that slowly and steadily you get into speed reading, like, you are able to comprehend as soon as you read. Okay, so that will be really helpful. Now coming to some of the timelines that you need to keep in mind. So ideally, sentence equivalence question, you have to spend 45 seconds per question. Okay, so sentence equivalence questions, get into the habit. What you have to do is, in your dashboard, okay, what I have done is, all the 20 questions, there are sectional tests given for sentence equivalence, text completion, quantitative comparison. But there, what I have done it, I have just kept 1 minute per question. Okay, so you have like 30 questions. It's in the similar fashion as you appear here, like as you appear for your GRE. Okay, so 20 questions, 30 minutes for verbal ability, and 20 questions, 35 minutes for quantitative comparison. So just go to the dashboard, check on the sectional test. The timer is already there. Okay, if you are solving any of the ebooks and any other material, what you have to do is keep up a timer that 45 seconds एक sentence equivalence question में लगना चाहिए. तो अगर 20 questions तुम solve करो तो 45 seconds per question का timer लगा के करो. Okay, so 45 seconds for sentence equivalence. Next important thing is text completion के लिए you have to take around 30 seconds to 90 seconds. ठीक है, text completion 30 to 90 seconds. क्यों? Because text completion, you will have 1 blank text completion, 2 blank text completion, and 3 blank text completion also. Okay, so 30 seconds to 90 seconds is something that you have to spend on a text completion question. Next important thing is RC. RC, for every question you have to spend 1 minute 30 seconds. Okay, that's the amount of time that you will take, because you might have to go to the passage again and check, and kuch nahi samjha, again read karna padega, and all of those things. So what I'm trying to tell you is that in verbal section, even though you have 20 questions and you have 30 minutes, that means 1.5 minutes per question, but you cannot afford to put 1 minute 30 seconds for every question. Okay, why? Because sentence equivalence questions mein kam time lagega, 45 seconds lagega, or a text completion question mein you should develop a habit of 30 seconds to 90 seconds. Similarly, reading comprehension questions mein 1 minute 1.1 minute 30 seconds lagega. Okay, so that is what you have to develop the habit on. Okay, so now, okay, for example, you are very good with sentence equivalence और बहुत जल्दी solve हो रहा है, so ideally 45 seconds तो मैं बोल रही हूँ, but you should get into the habit of 30 seconds में ही solve हो जाए. क्यों? क्योंकि वो जो 15 seconds बचा, that you can use in some tough questions जिसका आंसर नहीं आ रहा है, which you have to think a lot. So if you save time like this, then later on you would have time to actually go through it. And if you left some questions, if you, GRE has a feature of marking up questions. So if you have time, so you can spend that time in going back to the questions and actually checking. Okay, so again, reiterating, sentence equivalence, you have to spend 45 seconds, text completion 30 seconds to 90 seconds, depending upon the number of blanks, and reading comprehension 1 minute 30 seconds. Okay, let's move to quantitative aptitude. Now in quantitative aptitude, what you're going to have quantitative aptitude normal problem solving questions, multiple choice questions जैसे रहेंगे. Quantitative comparison questions रहते हैं, दो values दिए and you have to quantity A is greater, quantity B is greater, both are equal, or the relationship cannot be determined. Okay, so those type of questions are called quantitative comparison questions. And third type is data interpretation questions. Okay, so for quantitative comparison questions, ठीक है, quantitative comparison questions में 1 minute 15 seconds should be good to go. ठीक है, क्यों? क्योंकि वहां पे दो क्वांटिटीज दी रहेंगी, वो दो क्वांटिटीज को यू हैव टू एक्चुअली एनालाइज एंड यू हैव टू चूज. द ऑप्शंस आर ऑलवेज गोइंग टू बी द सेम. क्वांटिटी ए इज ग्रेटर, क्वांटिटी बी इज ग्रेटर, बोथ आर इक्वल एंड कैनॉट बी डिटरमाइंड. Okay, so comparatively less time you would take actually to solve a quantitative comparison question, which is 1 minute 15 seconds. Moving ahead to actually problem solving questions, when you have to actually solve or blank diya hai, option nahi diya, and you actually have to solve things. For that, in quant's question, you would ideally take 2 minutes. So 2 minutes of time you would require. So if you take more time in quantitative comparison questions, so actual questions jab thoda calculation intensive aa jayega, logical aa jayega, wherein you have to actually spend time, that question you would not be able to devote time. So for quantitative aptitude questions, tricky questions, lengthy questions, you have to spend 2 minutes on your GRE. Okay. Now, moving ahead to data interpretation questions. Data interpretation questions, as I told you, I have done day before yesterday, I did a video live on data interpretation. So you know that, data interpretation is not going to be that logical. But what is going to be important there is data interpretation is moreover going to be very calculation intensive. So again, you have to spend 2 minutes on every data interpretation question. So you will have like one graph and you will have 3 questions. Okay, so for each question, you would have to spend 2 minutes per question. Okay, so this is how you have to plan for quant. So I'll again repeat. Okay, first I'll repeat quants and then I'll go to verbal. All you have to do is get into the habit of putting a stopwatch and practicing the type of questions like this, because in your actual GRE, you never know that, even if you know everything and if you are short of time, then there is no point. Okay, and a lot of students ask me that, how do you actually go about, like, once you are solving, once you are onto the GRE exam. So a lot of people ask me that, skip kar sakte hai kya questions, like can you leave one question in GRE, like what do you think? Okay, like if there are 20 questions nahi aa raha hai, to can you skip that question? Okay, so the answer to that question is no. You should not skip any of the questions. Kuch bhi chhodna nahi chahiye. Why you should not skip any of the questions? Because there is no negative marking. And if you are skipping questions, if you are not solving a questions, not attempting, last mein agar guess work bhi nahi kar rahe ho, to tumhare zyada marks cut jayenge. You will lose more marks if you are skipping a question and not just guessing it. Okay, because there are no negative points for, wrong answer. So you should not at all skip any of the questions in your GRE. Also, GRE exam is section level adaptive. Okay, what do you mean by section level adaptive? If the first section that you have given, if you have answered majority of the questions correct, so the next section that you have is going to be a tough section as compared to the first section. So the people who are aiming a very high score of 320 plus in GRE, what you have to do is you have to ensure कि तुम्हारा verbal section और जो quant section है, second section जो है, वो बहुत tough है. ओके, सो इसका मतलब क्या होता है कि तुम्हारे जो फर्स्ट 2 सेक्शंस है वो बहुत अच्छे गए हैं. अगर सेकंड, तो यू वुड ऑब्वियसली नॉट कम टू नो एट दैट पॉइंट, बट यू हैव टू डू इट सो वेल दैट मैक्सिमम क्वेश्चंस करेक्ट. यू कैन नॉट अफोर्ड टू डू एनी मिस्टेक्स. So that is something that you have to keep in mind. Again, coming to the time management strategy that you have to keep in mind. For verbal section, sentence equivalence 45 seconds per question. Please note it down. Text completion 30 to 90 seconds per question depending upon number of blanks. Reading comprehension 1 minute 30 seconds per question. Quantitative comparison. Quants mein quantitative comparison questions 1 minute 15 seconds. Quantitative aptitude questions 2 minutes. And data interpretation question 2 minutes. Okay, so this is how you have to allocate time and not randomly like all questions ke liye same hi time allocate kar do, chalo aise karenge. So from today, whenever you are solving, go to first and the most important thing, sectional test. पहले dashboard पे जाके solve करो. 35 sectional test है, वो अगर time पे solve कर लिया तो कभी life में time management का problem नहीं हो सकता है. ठीक है. Second thing, sectional test सारे हो जाएंगे तो mock solve करो. Mock से you will actually get a feel of how you are going to appear for your GRE exam. Okay, so this is all from today's live. Okay, I hope you guys are revving up your preparation, and if you have any queries or doubts, you want me to do some video, you can drop in comments and I'll do some other video. My Calendly link is given below. People who are interested in getting in touch with me, you can book an appointment with me and I'll help you all with your applications as well as your GRE preparation. And second most important thing, people who are interested in the code, use the coupon code GREKing50 and get access to the course. Every Monday, Friday, we're having live lectures, and I have done a video on dashboard that will show you what all things you will get. So you can actually check that as well. This is Aishwarya signing off. People who have not watched the video, you can just go back, and understand the time management strategy, how much time you have to allocate for each question on your GRE. I've explained it through this video. All the very best, and I'll see you tomorrow with another live. Till then, bye-bye. Have a good night.